All right, ready to dive in.
Let's do it.
You've handed us a mountain of reports on this company, Pudumjee Paper Products.
Yeah, looks like we've got our work cut out for us.
They're publicly traded in India, specializing in, well, specialty paper products. We've got quarterly results, industry trends, management insights, the whole shebang.
Sounds comprehensive.
And right off the bat, something's catching my eye.
What's that?
Their recent quarterly operating revenue growth, it's exceeding their historical averages. But there's a but.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
Their net profit growth, it's lagging behind. Seems a bit counterintuitive, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely something we need to unpack. Strong revenue growth usually signals stronger profit growth, so there's a missing piece to this puzzle.
Exactly. Makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes. But before we get lost in the numbers, maybe we should zoom out for a sec.
Agreed. Context is key.
What's the current state of the paper industry overall? Is it really a dying breed in this digital age?
It's more nuanced than that. Some segments, sure, they've faced challenges.
Like what we've all seen with newspapers and magazines going digital.
Exactly. But other areas, especially specialty paper and packaging, they're actually booming.
Really? So it's not all doom and gloom for paper.
Not at all. The global specialty paper market, for instance, it's projected to hit, get this, $13.59 billion by 2028.
Wow, that's a lot of specialty paper. What's fueling this growth?
Well, sustainability is a huge factor. Consumers are becoming more and more aware of the environmental impact of plastics.
Yeah, everyone's looking for eco-friendly alternatives these days.
Right, and paper fits the bill perfectly. It's recyclable, it's biodegradable, it's the natural choice.
Makes sense. But it's not just about replacing plastic, is it?
Nope, there's more to it. The rise of e-commerce has also fueled demand for paper, specifically in packaging.
Oh, all those boxes arriving on doorsteps everywhere. Hadn't thought about it that way.
It's a major driver. So the paper industry, it's not fading away, it's evolving.
So that's where Pudumjee comes in. They're riding this wave, particularly in the specialty paper segment.
Precisely. They're not trying to compete with the big guys in the mass-produced paper market.
More of a niche player.
You got it. They're focused on small to medium volume customized products.
So they're more like problem solvers, tailoring solutions to specific client needs.
Exactly. It's a different game than churning out paper by the ton.
Speaking of tailored solutions, there was that fascinating story in the reports about a U.S. multinational conglomerate.
Oh yeah, the one that approached Pudumjee for a very specific type of masking paper.
That's the one. Seems like they were impressed with Pudumjee's ability to, as they put it, indigenize the manufacturing process.
It speaks volumes about their capabilities and their willingness to take on complex challenges.
Definitely not your average paper company. They're innovative, they're agile, they're willing to push boundaries. But let's circle back to those financials.
Right, back to that revenue growth and profit puzzle.
We saw their operating revenue jump significantly in the recent quarter. In fact, they crossed the 200 million mark in September 2024. Impressive, right?
Very impressive. They're clearly attracting new clients and expanding their market share.
But then there's that nagging issue of their net profit growth not keeping pace.
The million-dollar question,
Yeah.
why?
Where do we even start untangling that knot?
Well, their EBITDA margin is a good starting point. It's a key indicator of operational efficiency, and theirs has actually strengthened significantly, hitting 19.04%.
So operationally, they're running a tight ship. That's good, right?
Very good. It means they're controlling their costs and maximizing profit from each unit they produce.
But something's still eating into those profits, preventing them from reaching their full potential. What could it be?
The reports point to a few potential culprits. Increased fiber and energy costs, for one.
Those are industry-wide issues, right?
Unfortunately, yes. They also mentioned delays in implementing a captive solar plant.
Which could be impacting their energy expenses.
Exactly. And there's a hint of potential supply chain disruptions, too, which never helps.
So a combination of internal and external factors putting pressure on their bottom line.
It appears so. But there's one thing that really struck me as unusual when I first looked at their financials. Their debt. Or rather, the lack of it.
I noticed that too. Practically non-existent. Not something you see every day, especially for a company looking to expand.
It suggests a very conservative financial strategy, prioritizing stability and long-term sustainability over aggressive growth fueled by borrowing.
It's like they're building a solid foundation, brick by brick, rather than constructing a skyscraper on shaky ground.
A wise approach, especially in uncertain times.
I'm getting a good sense of their personality as a company, and I like what I see so far. But we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more to uncover.
You're telling me. We've laid the groundwork, understanding the industry, their unique position, and getting those initial financial insights.
Now it's time to roll up our sleeves and delve deeper into those numbers.
Let's do it.
Okay, ready to dive into these financial statements. I have to admit, numbers aren't exactly my forte.
Don't worry, I'll be your guide through this financial jungle.
Glad to have you along for the ride. So, where do we even begin with this stack of statements?
Well, the balance sheet's always a good place to start. It gives us a snapshot of their financial health.
Like a financial selfie. What should we be looking for?
We'll be checking out their assets, what they own, liabilities, what they owe, and the difference between the two, their equity.
Okay, I'm looking at their balance sheet now, and honestly, it's a bit overwhelming. Lots of numbers and financial jargon.
It can be daunting. Let's break it down, shall we? First thing that jumps out, that remarkably low debt level we talked about earlier.
Right. Tiny debt for a company their size.
Exactly. And it's reflected in their gearing ratio.
Hold on. Gearing ratio. That one's a bit over my head.
Think of it like this. It measures how much debt they're using to finance their assets.
So the lower the gearing ratio, the less they rely on debt, and the more solid their financial footing.
Precisely. Pudumjee's gearing ratio has actually improved, dropping from 0.14 in 2022-23 to just 0.04 in 2023-24.
So they're playing it safe, building slowly and steadily.
Exactly. Prioritizing long-term stability over risky debt-fueled growth. Now, let's look at their assets. Plant and machinery, that's their biggest chunk.
Makes sense. They're a manufacturing company after all. But I also see a significant chunk tied up in capital work in progress. What's that all about?
Think of it as money they've earmarked for ongoing projects and upgrades.
So investments that haven't fully matured yet.
Exactly. It's a sign that they're investing in their future, expanding their capabilities.
Speaking of expansion, we saw mention of that project in Mahad. Still seems to be stuck in limbo.
Yeah, those statutory clearances they mentioned are proving to be a real bottleneck, but they're not letting it stop them entirely.
They're not the type to sit around twiddling their thumbs.
Not at all. Their capital work in progress breakdown shows they're investing in their existing facilities as well.
Keeping busy while they wait for Mahad to get the green light. Smart move.
Absolutely. Adaptability is key in any business. Now, let's move on to their profit and loss statement, the P&L. This tells us the story of their revenues and expenses.
The story of how much money they're making and spending rate.
You got it. Their EBITDA margin is quite impressive, hitting 19.04%. This basically means they're good at managing costs and squeezing profit out of each unit they sell.
So they're running a tight ship, operationally speaking. But we also need to look at the specifics, right? Where's their money going?
Absolutely. Raw materials, as you'd expect for a paper manufacturer, make up a big chunk of their costs.
And they've been grappling with those rising fiber costs and supply chain headaches.
Exactly. Those external factors definitely play a role. Power and fuel costs are also significant for them.
Which makes that delayed solar plant project even more crucial.
For sure. Reducing their reliance on external energy sources could save them a lot in the long run.
It's a balancing act, managing these internal costs while navigating those external pressures.
It's a challenge every business faces. Now, let's shift gears to their cash flow statement.
Cash flow, the lifeblood of any business. What's the story there?
The good news is they're generating a strong positive cash flow from their operations.
Meaning their core business is healthy and profitable.
Exactly. And what's even better, a good chunk of that cash is being reinvested back into the business.
Funding those upgrades and expansions we talked about. Makes sense.
They're clearly thinking long-term, investing in their future growth. Now, these financial statements give us a good overview, but to really understand their performance, we need to look at some key financial ratios.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
more ratios. But I do remember you saying they're like a magnifying glass, helping us zoom in on specific aspects of their financial health.
You got it. One important one is return on assets, or ROA. It tells us how efficiently they're using their assets to generate profit.
So higher ROA, the better.
Generally, yes. And Pudumjee's ROA has been on an upward trend, suggesting they're becoming more efficient and profitable.
Sounds promising. What other ratios are we looking at?
Their interest coverage ratio is also very strong, thanks to those low debt levels. This basically means they have plenty of breathing room to cover their interest expenses.
Not sweating those debt payments.
Exactly, but there's one ratio that's a bit curious. Their inventory turnover ratio.
Inventory turnover, that's how quickly they're selling their inventory.
All right. And it's dipped a bit recently, meaning they might be holding on to inventory for a bit longer than usual.
Could this be linked to those supply chain issues? Maybe they're stocking up, just in case.
It's a possibility. Or maybe they're strategically building up inventory for those future expansion plans.
Hard to say for sure without more information, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Agreed. So overall, their financial picture is pretty solid. Strong ROA, healthy cash flow, low debt.
But those rising costs and potential supply chain issues are looming threats.
Definitely factors to consider. But now I'm really curious about their future plans and strategies. Where do they see themselves going from here?
All right, we've crunched the numbers, got a handle on their financials. Now I'm really curious about their vision for the future. What's next for Pudumjee?
Well, two words sum it up: sustainability and innovation. These are the driving forces behind their strategy.
And we've already seen how seriously they take sustainability. It's not just a buzzword for them.
It's in their DNA. They're walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
That stringent treated effluent target they hit, that's proof right there.
Exactly. They're committed to reducing their environmental impact every step of the way, minimizing water consumption, reducing waste, achieving the toughest effluent standards.
It's impressive. And it's not just altruism, right? It makes good business sense, too.
Absolutely. As consumers demand more eco-friendly products, Pudumjee is positioning themselves as a leader in sustainable paper solutions.
It's a win-win, good for the planet and good for business. Now, besides sustainability, you mentioned innovation. What's cooking on that front?
Well, the reports didn't give specifics, but we can make some educated guesses based on industry trends.
Oh, I love a good guessing game.
Eh.
Hit me with those educated guesses.
Well, they might be developing specialty papers with barrier properties, ideal for food packaging.
That's a hot market these days. Everyone wants fresh, convenient, and sustainably packaged food.
Exactly. Or maybe they're exploring flame-retardant papers for industrial applications.
Higher margins, niche market. Interesting. What else?
Perhaps biodegradable alternatives to plastic films. Now, that would be a game changer.
They'd be leading the charge towards a plastic-free future. It seems like they're always pushing the boundaries, exploring new possibilities.
That's that research-driven approach shining through.
You know, throughout this deep dive, something else has really struck me about Pudumjee.
Their emphasis on relationships.
Bingo. They're not just building a business, they're nurturing a community. Employees, vendors, the local community, they value those relationships.
Their chairman really hammered that point home.
Right.
Trust, collaboration, shared values, those are their guiding principles.
They've got forums, focus groups, feedback mechanisms, all designed to keep those communication lines open.
And those joint initiatives with their vendors, it's about creating partnerships, not just transactions.
It's a refreshing change from the every man for himself attitude you often see in business. Do you think this focus on relationships could be their secret weapon?
I think it's a huge advantage, especially in today's unpredictable world. Strong relationships build resilience, You weather storms together, find solutions, emerge stronger.
It's like they're creating an ecosystem, a supportive network where everyone can thrive. I'm really impressed with what we've uncovered about Pudumjee. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, Pudumjee is a prime example of how a company can succeed by taking a holistic approach.
They're proving that profitability and principles can go hand in hand.
Exactly. They're leading the way in sustainability, pushing boundaries with innovation, and fostering strong relationships.
Their story's a reminder that business can be a force for good in the world.
And their journey's far from over. They're ambitious, they're forward-thinking, and they're constantly evolving.
It'll be exciting to see what they accomplish in the years to come. And for our listeners, as you go about your day, think about this. What role do relationships play in your own work and life? And how can you contribute to a more sustainable future? Food for thought. Until next time.